So I think we are online right now. So hi everyone and welcome to this roundtable with Volt Europa. My name is Julia Boehme. I'm based in Sweden and I'm currently working on European policy on behalf of Volt. And I'm specifically in charge of social equality policy. Crucial to that field, of course, is developing Volt's gender equality policies. To that end, I believe that we have to reflect and discuss the state of affairs in our movement. So for this roundtable, I have invited all of you as women who have held or are currently holding different offices in Volt, be it on a European or a national level. So my hope is that we can further how Volt functions and how the state of feminism works in Volt. Do we actually practice what we preach at all times, or don't we? And how much can we learn from our shared and unique experience as the women of Volt? The end goal here is on a grander scale to use what lessons we have from our own movement to change society at large. To start with, would you like to present yourselves? I was thinking we could start with Anouk, Alexandra, and then Mihaela. And I would like to know, who are you? Which Volt team are you from? And why did you join Volt?
Thank you, Julia. My name is Anouk Ooms. I am from the Netherlands, so I'm part of Volt Nederland, but working as the General Secretary of Volt Europa. Why did I join Volt? My background is in consultancy and charity work, and you have there the Sustainable Development Goals. And I was at a conference where people were talking about how we need to work, for example, on quality of education, but everyone was looking at it from an angle of their own national countries. And there was even a research presented by the European Commission, which showed that, the Netherlands and Germany were doing quite well, but obviously other countries are not. And then the question was raised, how can we solve this? And people really had like a very slim answer. And I really felt like this is not how it should be. We should do this differently. And from there had a growing desire to see how we can tackle these problems as European Union. And then for some reason, is it luck or not, or coincidence, I don't know, but Volt came on my path, and I'm very happy to join the movement to make a difference there.
Thank you. Alexandra, would you like to go?
Yes, I was born in North Rhine-Westphalia in a pretty suburb next to a city often known as the most ugly city in Germany. And when I was a child, we moved to Mörsdorf, a 680 people village in Rhineland Palatinate. And after school, I was commuting to Karlsruhe, to Baden-Württemberg to study bioengineering. I am 26, and I was drawn to Volt because I wanted to work directly against the forces behind Brexit, for example. I wasn't active in politics before, but I had the feeling that we have to show that the force, that the EU is a force for good, that we citizens can change for the better. And I had the feeling that in my not in my family, but with friends, in discussions, that wasn't a thing that was as clear as it was for me, and because of that, I wanted to become active and show that it's possible to change things. Yeah. And I'm co-president of Rhineland Palatinate, and I'm working at the moment hard to make sure that we are on the ballot in the regional elections in March.
That's so cool, thank you. Mihaela, would you like to go now?
I'd love to. So my name is Mikhail Seritano. I am the treasurer of Volt Europa. I am 26, born in the Republic of Moldova, but I am proudly part of the Romanian team in Volt. I joined Volt quite early on, from January 2018 or so. I found out about Volt through a friend. So word of mouth was one of the main advertising methods for Volt back then. And outside of Volt, I'm actually working in the nonprofit sector. So I am working for International Planned Parenthood, which is an organization that fights for women's reproductive rights and bodily autonomy. And I've actually decided to become active in politics because of my work experience. Working in the NGO sector, I kind of learned that the NGO sector effectively exists to fill in the gaps of bad public policy. And unfortunately, it does not have the right tools and mechanisms to make sustainable change. So it only provides short-term relief. And I decided to get involved in politics because I want to make sustainable change. And I joined Volt particularly because I see Volt as a party that is not afraid to call problems by their names, and it's not afraid to tackle them. I see huge potential involved in building that consensus and building that political will that we actually lack today to tackle the current issues of our time, like climate change and artificial intelligence and so on. So that's why I'm here, and it's been a great adventure, and it's lovely working with amazing people like you guys.
Thank you so much. And yes, I think people of Volt are especially one of our biggest strengths so far. But it is big and it spans over multiple European cultures, and in those cultures, the attitude to women's empowerment sometimes vary. To what extent do you think this is a challenge for Volt? Who would like to go first? Mihaela?
Again. So again, as someone who maybe works in this field more, this is like an issue close to my heart. And indeed, just across the continent, women's rights vary so much across countries, and that is a big issue. And I think even looking at what's happening today, just take a look at Poland, which already is a country that has the strictest abortion rights in the EU, and now become even stricter if that's even possible. I think this should raise big alarm bells for us. I think even United States is a second example. First with the Mexico City policy, second now with the new seat in that has become available in the Supreme Court. I think we can expect another backlash against women's rights. So it just somehow feels that women's rights are like being given and taken away and can change any day, and that's unacceptable. I personally strongly believe that the only way to change this is to make sure that women are equally represented in governments, and basically that's where the decisions are made and implemented. For example, in Romania, only 22% of the seats in parliament are represented by women. And these quotas are not mandatory by law, they're only voluntarily implemented by parties, and that's the result. And just overall, in Eastern Europe, I think the struggles of women are a bit different compared to the West. There is much more pressure from social norms and from religion that creates stigma or pressure women to, act a certain way, or, it affects basically like control their desires, control their actions. And we have sexist, misogynistic behavior that's happening everywhere, sexual harassment. And I think the worst part is that in Eastern Europe, this is not talked about enough. So there's not enough societal awareness for people to actually push back and change these things. I do think, however, that Volt is in a very unique position, like as a transnational movement, by even having like the opportunity to meet up in like calls like this or offline events. We have a women's group that you guys have been pioneering, which is great. So just being able to meet up, talk about personal experiences, about struggles, that already creates like a positive spillover effect over different cultures and over different jurisdictions that you can't achieve otherwise. So that's a really cool thing that Volt is in a unique position to do.
Thank you. Would Anouk or Alexandra like to add something to that?
Yeah, I think what we need to be aware of, so yeah, I subscribe to everything Michael already said, but I think we really need to be aware of the different positions from every country also, because I think I feel actually quite privileged that in the Netherlands it's not such a big issue as it is, for example, in the Eastern countries in Europe. So I think it also makes our backgrounds come from a different angle. So for example, I see sometimes women take on a victim role, which to me makes me feel sad, and I really want to empower women. But it also comes because I myself don't feel so much a victim in the Netherlands, and I think it's important to see that we should relate to each other also on these topics, because we have quite a different starting point, and should support each other and learn from each other's experiences. And I think the women's group within Volt is an amazing start to get that dialogue going and to empower each other more.
First of all, I want something to. I have something to say. First of all, I think that's not only a challenge with women empowerment. That's also a challenge with every theme or issue we have involved or we are talking about. But I think we have to. The first thing is to try to understand each other and appreciate our differences, our cultural differences, and all our differences. And it is not necessary and not desirable. Oh God, that we all become the same. We have to be very careful and careful to remember we all involved share the same ideals in general, and we have to be but even minor culture differences can lead to huge misunderstandings. And I think that's a problem, or that's the challenge we have also directly involved sometimes. But I think the first thing is to be aware of that. The second thing is to talk about that, and I think that's something we do. Yeah, I think we are ahead to reach a good cultural exchange. And to the Poland thing, I think it's very threatening, or I feel threatened. I feel threatened for them, and I feel threatened for me. And I think we have to fight against these tendencies. And I think it's important to know how privileged we are. I feel also privileged. I come from Germany, like I said. So yes.
Thank you. In Volt, we talk very much about leading by example and literally practice what we preach. How do you think this works in Volt? Which empowering measures do you think we do well? Is there anything that we are currently doing that you would rather we didn't? And is there something we are not working on so far, which you think we should work on more? Who would like to go first? Would Anouk like to start?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, one of the things that I think we do well is to really reach for a gender balanced leadership. So basically every position that we have is on a co-leadership level where we really search for both a male and a female candidate. I also think it's not as easy to fill up sometimes, but I do think that the aim for it and really making it known already sets a much more positive note. And there are positions where we unfortunately haven't had women apply. So I also think we can do better there, but I think it also starts from the sheer fact that we currently do not have even a quarter of our members being female. So with that, it makes it also less easy to apply for positions. And I think the biggest thing that we should do is really make sure that our outreach is much more female friendly, so that that women feel attracted to join politics. And if I could speak for myself, I never wanted to join a political party because I don't see myself as a politically active person. I would much rather help in my role as general secretary, for example, to help build the stage for others. So I think we should really also look at that angle that, first of all, we need to attract people, women, or from other diversity groups to really join us and to feel part of our movement, and from there start building it more up.
I'd like to build up on what Anouk just said, if that's okay. I actually fully agree with her. I had the same ideas in mind, which is great. It means we're building consensus already. But indeed, I think gender balance policy is one of the best things we do in Volt, because that creates a couple of spillover effects. First of all, representation encourages and inspires participation. So it is true we still struggle to scout women talent, but we're seeing positive improvements there already. The second thing is that obviously by representation we're improving decision making. So giving space for women to sit at the decision making table means that they can bring in their added value and expertise and personal experiences, which is very important. And lastly, absolutely by giving women the space and the opportunity to be in leadership positions, they improve their leadership skills and improve their expertise. And here I speak from personal experience. My first term as treasurer, I wouldn't have been treasurer if it wasn't for the gender balance policy. But that opportunity alone gave me so much. I've learned to trust my instincts. I've learned about my weaknesses, my strengths. So I built a great sense of self-awareness. I learned to work better under pressure. Every day I'm working to be a better diplomat. So actually the learning curve that I've had in Volt has been much, much greater than I could have gotten it in my work life. Because we know how it is. After you go to college, you graduate, and then you start like from the bottom. You're like the 0 level. Then you build yourself up. That's how the system is created. So I think what we can do, and we're doing in Volt, and should continue and improve, is to give this opportunity for women to take on responsibility positions and then kind of learn on the go. When it comes to weaknesses, I fully agree with Anouk. We have been bad at reaching women. And I think partly that's because of our lack of resources. Volt started a lot as like a social media movement, so to speak. We invested a lot in paid advertising, and as it turns out, social media algorithms are just as biased. We replicate the human biases into our technology, and that's very bad because it currently is much cheaper to target a man, like advertise to a man, than it is to advertise to a woman. I have actually read a study not long ago done by the American University where they looked at the aspiration for societal change between college men and women, and they actually saw that women are much, much more likely to volunteer, to work in NGOs, to work in charities. So somehow this seems that women are much more concerned for like the common and shared well-being, yet somehow they don't see politics as a way to achieve that. So I think that's 2 key learnings for us here. One, we need to work on kind of communicating that politics and policy is the tool of all tools that achieves impactful change. And second, I think we absolutely need to partner more with organizations, with charities, because we need to tap into that passion and creativity and expertise that women have and kind of bring it more onto the other side.
Thank you. Alexandra, would you like to add to this?
I think, first of all, we have done an excellent job in Volt ensuring women are in positions of power. Despite the relatively, like said before, low number of women involved in general. I personally feel empowered not only by the women around me, but also by the men, and that's very important, and that's what it should be like. I think we also, like it was also said, we are missing, or what is missing is a way to reach out to women, to encourage them to join a political party in the first place. And but also, like Mihaela said, I think we aren't Volt isn't like the established parties. Volt is something like between a movement and a party, and I think because of that, it should be the perfect party for every woman, because I think that's something attractive, or something that attracts women. And you asked if there's something we didn't or we rather didn't do. I think I don't think that we do it, but I think it's something that is a fear for men, and also a fear for a lot of women to be voted just because they are women. So many men, not within Volt, but in general, think or are threatened because they think the women is voted because not because she's good, but because she's a woman. She's a woman, and I think, or I have to admit that that's one of my biggest fears. That it's not because of my achievements, but because I am a woman. I think a key to achieving equality is to come over with that feeling. I think we are deserving that equality, and we haven't to feel that the position was given to us just because we are because of our gender. And I think it's most often not the case, and I think finish to think that. And also you asked, are there missing any actions? I think there is sometimes there are some difficulties to there are sometimes some difficulties with explaining technical parts of Volt. We are pan-European, so we are based on the internet platforms, and that isn't just and also isn't in general a problem for women or for women, but also for many old people or less technical affine people. And I think we have the responsibility to help them for explaining and to explain them what we are doing and how we are doing that, and how to use, for example, our platforms. I think that is something we can do better. And also without demeaning, that's very important. Not
if I may,
one thing, then we have to move to the next question. So yes.
Right. I just wanted to say that Alexandra made such important points that I wanted to emphasize them. So very quick, I just wanted to say it is very true that women fear that if they'll get a seat just because they're women. But I say we need to own up to that. And the reason we're getting a seat is not because we're women, it's because for hundreds and hundreds of years, women were not allowed. So that change the reason, because that's the actual reason. And second of all, empowerment is not just a word that's so important. Again, like the study that I mentioned earlier before, it also looked at the way women, like the political ambition. So they asked men and women if they thought about running for office. And 40% of men said they decided to run because at least one parent encouraged them, compared to 29% of women. Again, personally, I've gotten involved in politics and I've decided to run for the board, not because, but despite the fact that my friends and close family discouraged me to do it. Discouraged me, they told me it's bad, it's dirty, you won't be able to survive. don't do it, find yourself something better to do. But it's good, like in Volt, I've managed to build a support system. I have people that I trust, that we go through the same experiences, that we motivate each other, you know, we keep each other, you know, in check and help each other. And that's something Volt can continue to do it, and perhaps we can even institutionalize this, like in the women's group, for example.
Absolutely. On a more, perhaps a more negative note, have you experienced that you or another woman involved has been treated less than ideally on basis of her gender? How did this happen? And do you feel it was a one-off, or is it a symptomatic problem inside of Volt as well? I see you smiling there, Mihaela. Do you want to start?
Well, yeah, I'll try to keep it short, although the probably experiences are so many. We could talk about it for a week. Maybe we should do a series about personal experiences. I think like the recurring thing that keeps happening to me is that, like, in many different circumstances with different counterparts, I get told that my tone is a bit like too much or a bit absolute, whatever that means, or I may be a bit too emotional, and like I need to keep myself in check or whatever, which I find so ridiculous. Like, you just know there's not enough women in politics when such stereotypes still exist, and when you as a woman are made like representative of your entire gender. And it's quite hilarious because it's never like talk about kind of my skills, my you know, quality of work and outputs. Is always kind of this vague aura around me that cannot quite be explained, but somehow it's bad, so I have to fix it, even though I don't know what I need to fix. It's more like, you know, like, deal with it. I'm a woman with opinions. I'm gonna keep talking about them and saying them, and that's fine. So that's, yeah, I've encountered this countless times, especially during the board campaign. I've become aware that my opponents were like working to kind of make me lose my temper in public so they can discredit me. So it's a very real thing that women go through, and it kind of makes, like, I think you can easily fall into a trap. I have fallen into the trap of like trying to diminish myself, or like be careful about how I speak, how much I speak, when I speak. And that's, I think that's absolutely what we should not do. Because often enough, like, men's feelings, like, men are praised for their emotions and feelings, women are punished for that. So I think this is yet another thing that we need to own, because that makes us authentic, that makes us more valuable, that makes us powerful. And lastly, like, I think it's important to kind of mention this trap. I think both women and men can fall into this trap of like sexism, and we need to be aware of that and constantly challenge kind of our reactions, because yeah, I've seen this happening of both gender. It's not just a one gender specific issue.
Yes, and how many times hasn't a male politician been angry on stage? Just think of that. And that's totally okay. Would Anouk like to add something? I see you unmuted yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think actually what I noticed within Volt is that actually the dismissiveness of emotions, like you described, Mihaela, is actually mostly dismissed by women. And I feel really sad about that, because actually we should root for each other and should make it more possible to have these emotions and feelings. And I have to say that the men that I have had the privilege to work with all were really very cooperative and always really treated me as an equal. So I actually think, if I look at my own experience, I actually really think there's a challenge with women amongst ourselves. And long ago I had this research where if you have, like, in leadership, you have one female and the rest is male, that woman will start behaving like a man and would start behaving like that, and with that has like trained herself to be only able to be on stage if you can't show your emotions, and with that, if another woman does that, that is like a bad thing. So I think we need to change that narrative amongst ourselves, because actually I think we have quite a fruitful environment of men within our party. So I think the change lies with us. And sure, there are exceptions always, but I think in general, I think we have quite a equal position as women. We should just own it ourselves much more.
Okay. Yeah. Firstly, I wanted to say in general, sexism is based on the mechanism that we must quickly assume things based on our first impression, and this is a useful thing in many ways, but also means that we, everybody, not only men, not only women, everybody, men, women, diverse people, subconsciously assumes that the one person are less competent than the other person, and often because of our narratives, we assume that the men are more competent than the woman. And I think one very important thing, like said before, is that we have to change the narrative. I think it requires an active effort and understanding of this phenomenon to counteract our subconscious prejudice. You know what I mean. I wanted to share a general really systematic sexism, but it's a small one. But if I am talking to someone and have a male companion with me, I am constantly ignored, and people talk with him instead of me. Even when I ask questions, they are talking or they are answering the other people, the men, yes. And the one knows that, and also the one who knows that and I am in that moment, I am the person who knows what he's talking about. So I want to buy something in the home improvement store or something like that, and I asked the man, hey, I am wondering, is that better or is that better? And he's answering my male companion. That's not happening. That hasn't happening once. It's very systematic, and it's happening in restaurants. It's happening in home improvement stores, like I said. It's happening with my landlord, and even in political discussions on the street. And that's something which should be changed. Yeah, but to change that, I think we have to change the narrative, and there we have to start. Everything we do at the moment is changing the narrative and showing that we are just as capable as men.
Definitely. And if you are with other women, it's the woman who acts most like a man who gets the question. I felt, at least. So using what we have mentioned in this question, how can we improve the experience of women who join Volt and wants to get active in politics? How should we best work to improve what we are identified? Who would like to start? Would Alexandra like to go first?
Mm-hmm. I think, first of all, by having more women involved, I can imagine the most off-putting thing for a woman is to appear at a Volt event for the first time and not seeing any other woman. It's very important that women are visible at Volt events, and especially at meet and greets and something like that. I think I also think that we can endure a good, safe and empowering surrounding by being aware of the, like I said, subconscious biases, and helping them work actively against them. And by enduring women never need to fear they won't be taken seriously, and not only women but also men and all humans. And this is down to the authority figures to present themselves as approachable and ensuring that they themselves don't fear. So I think that are the most important points.
Thank you. Would Mihaela or Anouk like to add something?
I think leadership, leading by example, is one of the core things that we should do, and I'm really happy to have that also being part of our mission statements, because that's where it starts. And I think actually a big problem is the label that politics has for women, and in general, if you have 5 tasks to do and a woman thinks she can do 3, she will not apply, where a man would think, well, I'll cover the other 2, I'll be fine. So I actually also think and it's not easy to bridge that gap, but I think it comes down to us women also to approach more women and to be more, like Alexandra also says, to be more seen, because actually I think from there we attract more people than from our traditional outreach, because we can change the outreach also for sure, and we can change our narrative, but it comes down from sharing stories with each other and make more known what you can do with Involved. And I think a beautiful example also is our social innovation campaigns. I think Europe Cares has been a huge success, not only with the impact that we have for the refugees in Moria, but also from the impact we have in our reach. And so much more women are involved, so much more people with another background than the traditional Western one that we have, unfortunately, with Involved. So yeah, I think it is very important. And I think actually I give workshops on diversity and inclusiveness. And there's a saying, which is diversity means being asked to the party and inclusiveness means being asked to dance. And actually, I think we got the dancing part covered when you are here, but we first have to invite more people to the party.
I fully agree with Anouk and Alexandra. I'll just, again, use my personal experience. I've had a lot involved male friends who sometimes we talk and they're like, look, this happened, but I'm not quite sure if what I said was good or bad, or can you actually help me understand better? You know, they're kind of afraid not to replicate, again, this systemic sexism. And that shows me 2 good things, very positive. I think first and foremost, clearly Involved, we have a space where men, are aware and want to understand more and want to break the cycle. And the second thing is that, well, actually they don't quite know enough. So I think this is another thing we could do. We have a very good women's group Involved, and I think we need to strengthen that and build that more. But there comes a time we need to step outside and actually improve awareness and understanding of, well, what are the things that we actually go through? You see it in the news a lot when men are like, oh, can I no longer shake a woman's hand in the office because it's going to be sexual harassment? It's like, yeah, you clearly don't understand what this is about if you say this. So I think indeed we can help a lot by talking more to the male counterparts so they can understand what's happening, and then next time they don't feel the need to call their female friend and ask about it, but they can make an assessment themselves.
Alexandra? I see
I wanted to add, in Germany we have something like, or we are building something like a female and diverse contact person system, and I think that is also important. Even if in your local team isn't a woman, that you have a woman contact person where you can reach out and feel included and have a network, something like that. Friends.
Definitely important, so you don't feel isolated. As mentioned, that sometimes you show up as the only woman to have an event and it feels a bit odd because you clearly feel like you're standing out in the wrong kind of way. To wrap up this, is how do you think we can use the lessons we have mentioned today on a Volt scale and lead by example on a European or a national level. So how can we use our lessons from Volt in our politics? Who would like to go first? Anouk, maybe? Yeah. Maybe not, or Mihaela?
Sure. Well, I think we already talked about, I think this has been such a good, insightful session, and there's so many good ideas here. I think the problem is so systemic that there's no magic solution. Although I still continue to strongly believe that equal representation in parliament and government is a huge step that can improve things significantly. But otherwise, I think, we simply need to place women at the center, not just women, all other marginalized groups, every time we make policy, because it impacts everything from budget allocation to education legislation, access to healthcare and equal pay and all of that. So it absolutely is not a one and done deal. And I think Volt, again, in its capacity of being a transnational movement, we are again uniquely positioned to coordinate policy, top down, but also across countries. And wouldn't that be a magical world where all countries in the EU actually have the same, socioeconomic development and the same kind of cultural awareness? Because we will then be able to, we'll have the same issues, and then we will be able to work together much better than we're able to work together today. And lastly, I want to add the other angle of it. And I think, again, my personal experience showed me how important this is, that one thing is legislation, but the other thing is social norms. And again, in countries like Romania, Bulgaria, Moldova, even though legislation is like fairly okay, but there's so much social pressure and social stigma for women who use contraception, for women who get abortions, for women who decide to not have children or have children later in life. Like, it's almost as if, the law is there, but then if women don't feel stigmatized to access it, they won't access it. So it's just as if, it's no good. So absolutely, we as well need to work on both areas simultaneously: awareness raising and policy advocacy.
Thank you. Alexandra?
Yeah, I think the answer is by being an example of success. We in Volt love to talk about best practices and learning from the others. And let us, in this case, be the best practice and let others learn from us. So get elected, be proof that we can change things, be proof that women are empowered and be in a position to have the reputation and reach to make a wide-reaching impact across Europe. So yeah, maybe anybody have any friends in Rhineland Palatinate? So please sign our petition for being in the elections. And yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. Does anyone have any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
We all do, of course. I will just say, I'll actually follow Alexandra's example, and I'll say there's no better way to finish this than with a call to action. Women out there, join us. We promise you an exciting adventure. We promise you that you will meet amazing women like these ones in this call and many, many more. It's really, again, as I'm talking about myself as a young professional, the experience that I've gained in Volt is not compared to anything else I've done in my life so far. So join us.
Alexandra?
I think most people underestimate themselves, and we are left with our leaders being those who overestimate themselves, for example, Boris. So let's stop this, or let's stop it. Trust yourself and realize we can achieve great things. 70% of people feel like an imposter. It's imposter syndrome at some point during their career, not deserving their success, and to stop subconsciously valuing women are less competent, or anybody is less competent. We have to start with ourselves. Yes.
Thank you. Anouk?
Yeah, I think all is very true, and I think a call to action is the right way to go, and also for us to spread the word, because I think the biggest steps in order to achieve change is to reach out more and to listen more to each other, and show what's here. And I think for all the women that are doubting whether or not to join politics, I don't think you should be held back. And actually doing politics doesn't mean you have to be on the front stage. If you want to help us make a change and work together, that is even more welcome too. So I would say there's a place for everyone, and feel free to join our movement.
Thank you for joining the stream. It's been amazing to have you here. And yes, for anyone who's thinking about joining Volt, give it a shot. I have never regretted the fact that I joined. I feel also like I've learned so much, especially as a young woman who is trying to go from the college stage of my life to a more professional one. The experience you learn is so worthwhile. So no matter how old you are, just maybe not if you're 5, just take the chance, and you have an amazing journey ahead of you. So thank you, everyone. I'm so happy you're here. Have a great day.
Julia.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.